Ask Me Anything. I said that if I got 500 subscribers in a slightly tongue-in-cheek fashion, because 500 subscribers is obviously not very many, although it's not nothing, it's not nothing. I said I would do an Ask Me Anything if I got 3 questions. Now, I got 4 questions from 2 people. Somebody asked 3, which was very, very clever of them. So on a technicality, the video does happen. And we're going to answer the questions while I work on this painting, which is sort of my weird, crazy alien skull face painting. I don't know what to think of it. I do like it. I think as I do more and more, it's got some kind of level of proficiency to it. It's not just paint thrown on there in any old fashion. There is some thought to it. I've been getting bits of dry paint from the tops of the tubes, of the acrylic paint tubes, and just putting around the eye here and a little nose ring here, and then this comes from one of the squeezy tubes. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is sort of just put a little bit of gloss medium on, just to stick that down, because I sort of just laid them on there and haven't really stuck them down. So we'll do that first and answer my questions in my first ever Ask Me Anything. Now I have to remember the questions because, well, I only got 4, so it's not the greatest challenge in the world. So a little bit of this gloss medium that dries pretty see-through, as long as you don't put an insane amount of it on. And that's what I use to make the sort of base of this painting. That's why it's grooved here, because I pulled that off, and this was all sort of gloss medium mixed with white and pink paint. Let's just put that on, and that's just going to help stick that down forever. And I think ultimately I will put a layer of resin on this, because then it'll fill into this lower bit here, and then sort of, you know, create almost, because it is a bit about being trapped within something. I think if I put a sort of like a glass layer of resin on it, I know it's not glass, but do you know what I mean? It'd be a bit like being further trapped, like in a tank or something, like a water tank, not a Chieftain 2. So, what's my first question? My first question was from a great supporter of the channel, somebody whose support I very much appreciate, Mark Snelson. And his question was along the lines of, am I right in thinking you used to be a scientist? Tell us a little bit more about that. And he is right in thinking I used to be a scientist, and therefore I will tell you a little bit more about that. Let's get this on first. So yeah, I suppose I always did want to be a scientist ever since I was a kid. I used to stay up and watch Horizon on Friday nights. My mum would let me come and sneak downstairs when my dad went out and got drunk with his brother at the pub, and I was allowed to sneak downstairs and watch it. And I have memories of, maybe it's a Friday, maybe this is a conglomerate sort of memory that's not real, but I definitely used to watch Horizon. I remember, I think, watching Richard Feynman's one where he's talking about magnetism and everything like that, and getting in a right old argument about it, being particularly pedantic that day. And I did always want to be a scientist, and ultimately I did end up being a scientist, getting buzzed. And yeah, so I was a molecular biologist, and I have a PhD in molecular biology, and I have a master's degree in the biomedical basis of disease, or I would say pathophysiology, really, because that's one of these sort of more just modern made-up titles. It doesn't necessarily mean anything other than to attract students to the course that they're advertising. And my original degree was in biochemistry, so I have 3 degrees, of which now I use none. Now my watch is saying it's going to run out of battery. There you go. It can deal with that itself. And yeah, so I studied originally in Sheffield in biochemistry, and ended up with a PhD also. And then I moved away from there and came here, which is Oxfordshire. It's now where I am, and I worked as an academic up in Sheffield for a reasonably small amount of time, but not an insignificant amount of time. It happened. So I was a scientist. I have a couple of published papers which I'm on relating to chemokines in the human endometrium, and also one I did with my partner and mother of my child. I mean, we just never got married. It's very difficult to come up with the correct terminology that's not pedantic. Everyone just says married and we just roll with it. But we did a paper on also our chemokines, because that was kind of where I specialised, and a method of sensing ligand receptor binding with some kind of machine, of which I had very little to do with. I was on the experimental design end of coming up with understanding how the chemokines interact, and thus knowing if the machine worked. And I ended up moving out to Oxford following my partner and mother of my child. Very pedantic way of saying it, isn't it? She's buzzing me now every 10 seconds on the old phone. It's not very conducive to making a smooth YouTube video. But you know, this is real life, so we'll drift with it. And I did come down here and I did work in the NHS as well for a while in molecular haematology. Ultimately didn't really enjoy that particularly much. The analytical side of having to reproduce things in a very rigid fashion, which of course you need if you're testing people for various illnesses and things like that, and the standards that were required behind that were not the same as academia, where you did have a creative input and a freedom to do whatever you wanted. And that I found difficult and stressful, because if you made mistakes, people's lives were at risk. And ultimately, I left that and worked on our house, which just fallen to pieces when we brought it, and still is, but to a lesser degree now. And in that time, my daughter was born, and I am now a full-time parent at the moment. I'm very lucky to do that. I don't know how long it'll last. I imagine when she goes to secondary school, I will have run out of excuses to stay at home, and thus something will have to happen. Hopefully, I'll have 1 million subscribers by then, and I won't have to get an ordinary job, but we'll see. I do think if I return to something, it will be some form of self-employment, so I don't think I'll be returning to academia. It's very much like, there's always a young bunch of new ones coming up, and the academics like to take advantage of that cheap labour, and also just new talent, and keeping up with the current era of what's new in molecular biology, of which there are new things. I mean, when I was doing it, it was all very much polymerase chain reaction and all things like that. Now it's all CRISPR and stuff like that, and I really don't know anything about CRISPR other than a few basics, that you'd discuss over dinner or something. The actual mechanics of doing it in the laboratory, I could learn it, but it would take a while. And so I just look after my daughter now. But we are still in a scientific world in this household, because my partner, I met her in the lab in the university, and she was a postdoc and I was a PhD student, and she is now a professor of basically biological sciences of some form. And yes, I provide a supporting role in that by being able to listen to the things that she likes to discuss about science and academia, and also allowing her to work extremely hard while I sort of keep everything on the balance here, with getting my daughter to school and all the various activities, and stopping the house from falling down, and keeping it as clean as we can, and feeding us and things like that, which seem like not particularly important things, but are required. This is meant to be like some kind of barcode in the mind, in the skull that you can see into, with some kind of, I might try and put an actual, like, something that reads as a barcode in there relating to a number. I was thinking 67, but then that was, I think that's gone passé now, isn't it? So I don't know, I'll think a little bit more about that. I might just leave it like that. There's a limited amount of time for these things in people's lives, but if I was subscribe. If I've got 10,000 subscribers, I can spend my time putting actual codes into my painting and stuff like that. As it stands, I have a limited amount of time because I've got lots of other things to do, keeping the household afloat. Yeah, but I think I will just do a little bit up there and tidy that up a bit. And also I've sort of, for those who've been following along on this painting, this edge here was previously red. I've been putting a bit of blue in there, and it's sort of provided, let's get it in close, it's provided a bit of contrast between the background and the foreground, which has been quite useful. So might do a little bit of that. Let's get some paint then and drink some obnoxiously strong coffee. Black acrylic, Liquitex Basics. Chuck a bit on this yogurt pot lid like I do every week. So the next questions, a little bit of black paint on the blade here, and I'm just going to put it on the top of the painting and try and level out the barcode bit because it's a bit wonky. The next questions, the next 3 questions, come from another great watcher and supporter of the channel who has a YouTube channel themselves, which is titled My Creative Disorder. I think I'm right in saying. A channel that I do enjoy watching whenever I find the time. I'm a bit terrible at catching up with these kind of things because I'm a bit, you know, all over the place, doing this, doing that, watching videos on wellness and things that I shouldn't be doing, and not focusing on watching useful and entertaining things. His channel's very good. It has lots of things about street art, lifestyle, travel, and I guess graphic design as well. Worth watching. That I believe I can buzz up here and will do. Enjoy the channel, and I'm very thankful for your support in watching this channel. And I think between you and Mark, probably the main reason I do it every week. There's a few other guys that dip in and out, and I thank you for your support also. But you know, when there's faces and names, it makes it a bit more worthwhile to do. And he had 3 questions. Now let's try and remember them. The first question I can answer, I can remember, was what's your favourite band? It might not be the first question. It was one of the questions. What's your favourite band? And I've spent a while thinking about this. I like all kinds of music, and you know, right now I'll listen to everything from sort of 90s sort of grunge and rock and all that kind of stuff that I grew up listening to, and sort of brings back memories. I will also dip into all kinds of new things, and then things like even weird things that you might not expect, like Doja Cat I quite enjoy listening to. I've got quite a wide net. I'm not too restricted on what I enjoy with music. I enjoy, you know, classical music. I enjoy opera. I mean, I'm quite unique in that there's not loads of people of my I don't know, age, background, I'm not sure. Anyway, I don't find a lot of fellow opera fans to chat at, you know, barbecues with and stuff. And quite like jazz music and classical music and, you know, most music really. What's not to like? It's music. And I suppose if I had to say there was something that I couldn't get, I've never managed to get along with, it would be Taylor Swift. Don't have anything against her, but whenever, I think with the exception of one song, that one where she's going on about receipts and being a bit bad, like some alter ego kind of thing. Yeah, apart from that one, that doesn't ignite my mind. So that might give you a sort of insight into what music I do like. In terms of just answering the question like a normal human, I would say my favourite artist of all time, and this is a bit of a sort of curated answer because I don't really have a favourite, but I'm going to say PJ Harvey actually, and for the reason that she has been around since my youth, of which I wasn't that interested in her music at the time. It's something I've sort of stumbled over as I was older, and then realised like quite how good it was. And she did that sort of like rock grunge thing in the 90s with everybody else, but in her own kind of way. And the amazing thing about her, I think, is how she has grown and improved and moved with the times and Tracy Emin used to say this is a thing that women are good at getting better with time and being like a slow burner and improving. When she says like men, so you could imagine maybe like artists, I don't know, like David Bowie. He was around for a long time. He's probably not a great example, but maybe you think all the best music from him came in the early days, you know, like Space Oddity and things like that. And then as he got older and older and older, it was a bit less good. And it is the case, isn't it, with a lot of music, that you prefer the first couple of albums and then 20 years later you're a bit like, this is not what you sort of like. But I would say that's not the case with PJ Harvey. I would say she's got better, and her music's very intelligent these days, and she sort of went on from original rock stuff and to bring you my love and all that kind of thing, which are great songs. But then it went down to like the sort of White Chalk album, where she was quite experimental but still good and interesting catchy tunes, and then moved on to sort of like getting interested in art herself. She's done some art like black and white sort of ink drawings of like crows and birds, and she's very interested in where she came from down in Dorset, and a lot of poetry and things like that, and that's been incorporated into her music as well. And I just think there's an amazing progression of keeping a career going for that long and getting better and more interesting as you go, rather than sort of like fading away. And it sort of fits in with me as I've grown as a human as well and got older, that she's sort of there along for all of that, and it's got better and better. In sort of her last album, it was using sort of like the local old English of Dorset and stuff, and you kind of needed translations and things to know exactly what it is she was talking about, which I don't know, maybe not be for some people, but I found it quite interesting. And she's just released a new song recently. Brian Cox, the physicist, apparently asked her to do it for something or another, and it's about Voyager 1. And I've given that one listen, and this is one thing I like about PJ Harvey. The first listen can be challenging, and I would say that was the case for this one as well. So I was going to give it some more listenings, because it starts off where you're a bit like, what's this? But then you listen to these things a few times, and actually it gets quite catchy. And I don't think she gets the credit she deserves, and I think that may partially be because she's a female artist, and if she had been a male artist around since the 90s, of the time of, you know, like Kurt Cobain and Dave Grohl and Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and all those things, which she was, and I think that she'd probably be a much better known and heralded hero of rock and roll and music than she is now. Well, I think that maybe she's a little bit overlooked, which is not fair, because I think she may be the most well-rounded and overall strongest current living mainstream musical artist of our time, I guess. Like I say, if she was David Bowie, I mean, I think she deserves that level of kudos. I did see David Bowie at Glastonbury 2000. It was a hectic weekend, or week. It ended on a Thursday, didn't it? Yes, I remember running out of food and having no money at all, and but having a very good time. It's strange now. I often worry about what if I ran out of finances and things like that, or problems like that. When you're 20, you really do just live from like one day to the next, or one meal to the next. It doesn't seem to concern you at all. So it's quite interesting what the trappings of having stability bring. You fear losing it. So yes, another equally tangential and roundabout way of answering a question, but I guess that's how you should do them if you want to make the video last. Getting to be a bit of an epic now. Second question was favourite artist. I'll be a bit quick with this one. I've just levelled that out a bit there on the top. Just over this side. As I get more time in the winter, I'm going to make these videos better again, so you can see what I'm doing. But I'm just running and gunning at the minute. Do this a little bit down at the bottom here as well. Second question, favourite artist. I have two favourite artists that fill slightly different areas for me. My overall favourite artist, bit of a cough going off there. My overall favourite artist is probably Gustav Klimt. He exists in the time of art, more towards the beginning, that I am most interested in. So late 19th, early 20th century art. He is on the edge, yet central. He's not in the Paris art scene, the Picasso world, and Monet and Manet and all the A's. He's not in that world, but he's kind of on the edge over in Austria. But to me, that kind of makes it interesting because he's on the outside edge, but he is central and still extremely well-known, famous artist. But he's sort of external in a way as well, but fits in with the story of art and academic painting, and then into his own personal styles after the loss of his brother and everything. Unfortunately, he himself died in the 1918 flu pandemic when he was in his 50s or 50-ish, which is unfortunate. And it would have been very interesting to see where he would have ended up if he had, say, had the life length of Picasso, for example. He had the skills to do any kind of academic painting or portraiture, and that's where he started, but then expanded into looser, freer, more expressionist style work. And obviously The Kiss and all the associated paintings around that are amazing. And out of all the famous paintings I've seen, including going to MoMA in New York and various other galleries in and around Europe, seeing The Kiss in person is the only painting that has made me go like that. Even when I bumped into Starry Night in MoMA, I think is there more than one Starry Night? There may well be, you know. But, you know, even when I sort of just walked around the corner, I was like, oh, what's everyone looking at here? And it was like a Van Gogh, like 2 centimetres away from your face, which was kind of unbelievable. That didn't make me go, I was like, oh, like I was super interested, but I went like, but I was, when I saw The Kiss, absolutely, it's big and it's gold. So maybe that's what made me to go. But that happened, and that leads on well to my other favourite artist, Mark Rothko, the abstract expressionist based in New York, grew up in New York, moved there as an immigrant. I love his work because he had an idea, and the idea was that a painting should do that to you, should make you go, and so he thought all his paintings would create an emotional experience, and he believed that it would kind of bring you to tears. And you know, some people may look at his colour field paintings and go, oh, well, that's nothing, I could do that. Well, first of all, I've tried, and you can't do that. It's extremely difficult to recreate those paintings. And the way he does it, the amount of freedom on that, try and do those borders and get them blending like he did. It's extremely difficult to create that effect. And the way he thought about and combined the colours and laid it down shows you how something that's so simple in concept can become so complicated and nuanced once you get into doing it. And I like the audaciousness of just putting a big block of colour surrounded by another block of colour, you know, and a bit up there. I like the philosophy behind it, even if it's a slightly false philosophy, because most people are not going to be moved to tears seeing a painting because people just aren't like that. But I like the fact that he thought people might be like that. And it's a shame in a way that people aren't like that. Some people are, but most, I believe, are not like that. And most people are not the slightest bit interested in art or the history of art. So yeah, Mark Rothko and Gustav Klimt, two amazing painters. And the last question from my creative disorder was, do you see yourself doing this, so I guess being an artist full time, maybe a YouTuber full time, and yeah, my answer is probably I will not be doing this full time. It relates back, I guess, to my very first question of when my daughter does finally become old enough to essentially take care of herself. Our philosophy here is that there should always be somebody at home for her. The idea being that if she walked out of school, I or my partner will be there at all times. So there'd always be someone for her at home, and she wouldn't have to go to some of the after school clubs and things that other children do. At some point that will not be necessary. I will not be needed. I already feel less needed, and it makes me sad, but also happy to see her develop and become her own person. But then it makes you feel like you're losing something as well. It's very difficult emotion. I would say, in fact, having children is the fundamentally most challenging thing you can do, because you gain as they grow and move away, but you also lose, and that tug between the two is very real, more real than most other things. And before, when you have the freedom to make decisions for yourself, now your decisions are not for yourself. They fundamentally go through the vessel of your family first. And that is very interesting, to be in that position where you are not the centre of your own universe. And I think much better to not be the centre of your own universe. But do I see myself doing this full time? I'd be very surprised. I would love it. I would love it. It would be amazing, wouldn't it, if I could sell these paintings. I mean, let's see how many months have I been doing this? Like 6 months, more? I mean, I've not been doing it non-stop for that amount of time, but, you know, all the art things I do on a weekly basis. And if I was to make an income out of it, this painting would need to sell for thousands of pounds, and it will not. And if YouTube is to provide an income for me, I need tens to hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and that seems unlikely. But I would say I didn't expect to get 500 this year. So I am kind of doing this as a hobby, with a slight side quest of, if by any chance it happened to not be my hobby in the next, let's say, 5 years, and it became my job, then that'd be awesome. It really would be. And in some ways, that's why I'm called Dead Art Studios originally. I'm now Das Art, because that's a bit more marketable, isn't it? But Dead Art Studios related to the fact that art, in my mind, is kind of dead. It is like an old art, isn't it? I can't see much new innovation coming from painting. People are just going to be doing versions of what's been done before. The original statements have all been made. It's not to say that this doesn't have value, but I can pick it and go, okay, so you've got this expressionist bit, you've got this abstract bit, you've got this printing bit, and so-and-so did that, and so-and-so did that, and, you know, so-and-so did that, and it broadly looks like a Basquiat maybe, and it's got street art vibes, and you can break it all down, and then you can say, well, what's the new bit? Well, the new bit is it's the sum of all those things together, but at some point, that is just homogenizing and, you know, creating a bit like a sausage from the meats of an animal. You've got all the individual parts and it just gets homogenized and pushed out. So, yeah, but the reason the studios bit is because long term I thought it would be nice if I could have a studio, and also, you know, if other people could be in that studio and use it as a space. And if I ever did make a significant income from art or whatever, then probably two of the things I'd do is, first thing, I'd probably try and have the studio and let young artists have some time in it to do some art and find themselves a bit, and I'd probably YouTube that. I guess so there'd be a studio and people working in it, and it'd be that. And I guess also something else I'd quite like to do is it would be to have a gallery of some kind, and I just haven't got the time. I already think about now about just acquiring art that I like and then trying to basically resell it. I mean, that's what, it sounds bad, doesn't it, doing that? But I'm going to buy your art and then try and make a bit of profit off it. But that's what galleries do, isn't it? And so why not be a person who cares about art doing that, and at least try and find, you know, artists that you think should be making an income, even if you are taking a cut of it and stuff. So yeah, a gallery would be nice as well. It would probably be an online gallery. And I think overall, I need to get back on it in that my next major thing that I need to do is to get ready to try and sell some paintings to America, because that's where the market seems to be. So there's a YouTube vid coming. My things I need to do, sell out to America, which is not many things. Quite frankly, I should have done it by now, but you know, you procrastinate these things away, and you get a bit scared, and you don't want to do it, and the reality is you just got to jump in and do it. So I will at some point. It's basically revolves around me needing to get an EORI number so that I can export stuff to America, and then once I've done that, it's fine. That relates slightly to then having to formalise myself as a business, but I don't have to do that until I earn £1,000 gross income, which I'm never going to earn from art, so I might as well just apply for the EORI number as an individual and get on with it. But brain says things, inaction happens, and then other things come and stuff like that. So yeah, ask me anything over 36 minutes. Bit of editing, might get that down to 30, maybe 32, 34, something like that. Not done a lot on this. I'm going to keep working on this. I think this might be all right when it's finished. What do you think? Let me know. And yeah, maybe I'll do another one of these at 1,000 subscribers, but I don't think that's going to be this year at current rates, but you never know. If I'm lucky and a video goes a bit viral-ish by my own low standards, maybe that would happen this year. It'd be lovely if it did. Anyway, thank you for your questions. Thank you for watching. Thank you for getting to 500 subscribers. Thank you for being interested in art in general, and have a good week. I'll see you next week, and take care.